Greetings one and all, this is Lloyd Brown. Welcome social media family to the season 3 first episode of my vlogs. When I tell you so, I have international guests and national guests, you know what I mean? Nationally known and internationally accepted. I'm not lying. All I have to clean up the glasses too, you know, because, you know, can't be talking to you on a fresh season with mud up glasses, you know what I'm saying? That can't work, bless. So as you can see, I've got a beloved guest next to me right now. And I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking when you see him. That's Goldie, man! That's Goldie! No, it's not Goldie. And I'm sure he can tell you the amount of times, he can't tell you the amount of times he's been mistaken for Goldie. I even mistook him for Goldie when I first saw him the first time. I said, yo, Reggie, is anyone talking? Yes, yes, millions of times. So, this is my very special guest to open up the 3rd season of my vlogs. And what can I tell you about this gentleman? First of all, this gentleman's knowledge of 80s dancehall music is wide and it's vast and it's deep and it's broad. For starters, right? Not only is he a DJ, but he's a producer as well. He's been in this business for how long now?
30 years, since 1987.
Since 1987, as he's going to turn off in phone. Because we can't have no disturbance.
No disturbance.
Lockdown, right? So I want to introduce to you a gentleman by the name of Lloyd Mullings. Yes, he shares my name, ladies and gentlemen. So it might get a bit confusing if you're just listening to the vlog. But we're both called Lloyd. His name is Lloyd Mullings, but he's affectionately known as DJ Manizi for Sheezy Manizi. Can you make the #1 them sound easy? How you doing, sir?
No, great, you know. Great to be here, man.
Listen, it's great. It's great to have you here, man. Anyone, because when I tell people where me live, they say, yeah, a bush you live, Bridgie. But when they come down and they see the vibe and they take in the vibe, they love the vibe still. So it's a pleasure having you here.
Well, you know, they used to say where I was from was out in the sticks, so you know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He live further out in the sticks than I do. But we're gonna take the opportunity today to talk about this individual's life as a DJ, from pirate to commercial, to being a producer, to right now where he currently has a #1 tune in the New York reggae charts. Me nah lie to uno. You know what I mean? Of course with the help of myself, you know what I'm saying?
For real.
So we're gonna talk about a lot of things from his days growing up as a child to now being a producer. And first of all, we want to talk about your childhood.
Yeah.
Where you're from, family, etc.
Well, my family's from the Caribbean, from Jamaica. I was born in the UK. I was born affectionately known as what's up north, up in Wolverhampton. I came to Luton when I was 6 years old, and all my memories stem from there, really. You know, I was listening to music what my parents used to play in the front room, where
as we all do,
you know.
And I want to stick. Hold on. I want to stick up here because there is a thing that we both share. There's a story that we both share, and I thought I was the only one that done it. Right, back in the day when your parents would have the beloved front room. The beloved front room was like sacred territory.
Sacred.
You don't touch nothing in the living room. You don't touch the drinks cabinet. You don't touch the ornaments. You don't touch, and you don't touch the gram. You don't touch the gram, and you don't touch the records in the gram.
Yeah.
Right? I remember music affected me so much. I used to sneak downstairs, right, and go into the living room and play my father's radiogram with the volume down.
Yeah.
Because them time the needle was so thick that you could hear the sound coming from the needle itself. And when he told me he done the same thing, I nearly fall down.
Yeah, we did an interview on the radio, and I did bring that up, and I was surprised that somebody else had done it as well. I used to sneak down the stairs, like you said, when my dad was at work, sneak into the front room. He had that blue spot gram, and he used to have the 4 speakers at the bottom, and I even took those out one day to see how those operated. But before that, I used to put the needle on the record without the sound so that you could hear the music.
Wow.
That's how it grabbed hold of me, because Of course, they used to have their parties at the weekends when they used to invite their friends and thing around. And I used to sneak downstairs and listen on the staircase while they're playing, dancing away and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd get caught. My dad would run me back upstairs, go on a bit, boy, and thing there, But the music that I was listening to then was, people like Desmond Decker, Jimmy Cliff. You'd hear some Heptones, some Burning Spear. So we were influenced by all of that. And while we wasn't doing that, my mother used to have some 78 records as well. And those used to be Mentor, so I used to listen to a bit of Mentor as well. They were a bit comedic. The lyrics seemed to be a bit of comedy, but that's what attracted me as well.
Let me stick up in and ask you a question. Did your parents used to have any 78s by a duo called Shirley and Lee?
I think so. I can't remember the name of the artist, to be honest.
There was a tune called "This Is My Story."
Right. That's new to me. But
New?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
I did hear one called Bedbug, you nasty son of a... You bite me ears and then you run.
Wow.
That's going back some, that is, But yeah, that was one that I used to hear. My mother used to love that one.
But you was talking about when you used to sneak downstairs in your father's in the family's front room.
Yeah.
And you used to take the speakers out the
I
ground.
took the speakers. That was the biggest mistake I ever made in my life.
Bridget, they put a death wish or something.
Death wish.
Listen, it's bad enough basically being in the living room,
Yeah.
much less take out the speakers from the radio. Grandma want to see how that works and make your father catch you.
I was fearless. The music just had me. Like, I just had to find out what was going on. What caused all of this. Not only the musicians. The lyrics and everything. I want to know what caused those sounds. Who are the musicians? What's the speaker? How does it come through there? Everything we want to know about the music.
Well, when people tell you about their childhood and them growing up and people saying, I didn't mind take the beating. I would take the beating because it was worth it just to listen to music and things like that.
That's definitely.
Over's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is pre-health and safety,
Yeah.
child line, pre-child abuse and all them thing there. You know what I mean?
It's a serious thing. It's just like when you're learning your apprenticeship in sound system and you travel in the back of the van to try. That was part of the apprenticeship of learning those music at that time. You sneak in the front room and you want to hear what's going on, and you think it's only you that's doing that, but all your friends are coming to school and telling you their story as well as what happened the night before.
It's a generation, of people going through the same thing. It's like going to your friend's house, and you see your friend's house, decorated in the same way with the garish wallpaper and and the carpet that just had all the colours of the rainbow on the floor and all that stuff. Do you know what I mean? And and going into someone's house and seeing that their taste in furnishings was the same as everyone else's. You know what I mean?
And everybody came from different parts of the Caribbean. You had whether you're from St. Vincent or from St. Kitts or Barbados or Jamaica, we all had the same front room scenario. All of it was intertwined. Everybody had the same background of growing up. So
right, okay,
it was all good.
So let's move on from your childhood, because it's pretty evident that your childhood was more or less the same as more or less everyone else's with a Caribbean background as far as music was concerned. So so after you basically hearing the music as a youngster in the family household, what was it like for you when you actually went to school? How did the music keep a hold of you while you was at school?
When we was at school, we used to have music lessons where they used to talk about Tchaikovsky and people like that, and I always wondered, why didn't they ever talk about reggae music, Why is it only about the British, the pop music? That's all we used to hear, pop music. So my first venture into the music world as a school, as a school pupil, was going to school discos, and youth clubs at the weekends where we'd hear pop music that you'd hear on the radio or on Top of the Pops on TV.
Right.
With one and two reggae tunes intertwined, you might hear the odd Eddie Grant or something like that.
Let me stick a pin, because this is a question that I needed to have asked you before. With me growing up in the same situation, my first taste of music, aside of what was in my father's record collection in the radiogram, etc., on a radio tip, I would listen to people like Steve Barnard and Tony Williams, and later on David Rodigan. Yeah. So where you was living, who would you be listening to in terms of who was the DJs of the day playing reggae?
Oh, it would be the same. It'd be Steve Barnard, Greg Edwards for soul music, and then Tony Williams, And then, as you said, David Rodigan. I mean, on a Friday night, when it was time to go to the disco or dance, whatever it was, I wouldn't be leaving my house until we listened to Rodigan on Capital Radio. You know, with all those famous jingles that he had and stuff, you know.
Absolutely.
That kind of drew me even more to want to be involved in the reggae music, you know, hearing it, thinking, wow, this is fantastic. You know, we don't hear much of this in our area neither. And you're hearing it on the radio, so you had to stay in to listen. And then when you go out, you'd tell your friends, did you hear Rodigan or did you hear Tony Williams? And they'd play all the hits of the time, you know, so it was good.
Did you used to tape the programs?
Yeah, we used to tape the programs
on cassette and stuff.
I've still got some of them on cassette.
For those who don't know what a cassette is, it's like
a reel to reel.
It's like a reel to reel, or like an old VHS. Why am I even telling you about VHS when you might not even know what a VHS is? But it's like a very small cassette. I don't even have one to basically show you. It's like we're down in the basement, you know?
About the size of that.
Yeah.
About the size of that. And sometimes the tape would snap and then you'd tape it together with sellotape and weed it back in. You remember that?
Yeah, we used to do plenty of that.
Yeah.
So school days, you would basically just chat with your brethren about the songs and stuff like that, and you wondering how come other musical genres wasn't really included in the school curriculum at that time. I mean, let's face it. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, we was living in a time where the British culture of music and the arts and stuff was
growing.
Yeah,
still,
it was
early stages.
Yeah, it was basically front and center, and we more or less had to pick up on that before we was edified with anything else. So what we basically heard at home, on the radio and on the gram and stuff like that. That was our learning of what our culture was in terms of music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From our ethnicity, for want of a better word.
But then what I'd like to say as well about that period as well at school, when we just left school, and I left school in around 74, 75, and the older people, the older generation, that were a few years older than me, they were into the sound system thing, and they used to allow us, because that's when I first heard about sound system. There used to be a little club called Donkey Pen. They used to call it Donkey Pen.
Donkey Pen.
That's the first.
Where you going, mate? I got a Donkey Pen.
I got a Donkey Pen, you know. Where that, man? That's up by Hightown, you know. And what's going on up there? Sound system play. What? Yeah, man. I'm reaching up there. And when you reach up there, it's older people than us. But there was a vibe that time where they allowed us to mix with them as long as we behaved ourselves.
See.
Whereas there's a difference now with the youths now, they're not into all of that. But that's part of learning as well. They encouraged us. And there was a sound there called Count Tivy at the time. And then they changed the name to Capital T. And there's a little history with them as well, because just after I left school, we started learning about sound system and sound clash. And they ended up Capital T ended up playing in London with a sound called Jossofera. And got our beaten from Jossofera, but he so impressed them with his sound and the music. The little country sound played good, and that was all. That was the beginning. Now, when we decided among ourselves that we're gonna have a youth man sound, which I was just a follower, but it was a sound called Falcon. Was the first sound in Luton of my era, of my age group, to start up a sound system, you know, and and it had people like Lawrence Palmer, Tony Newville, you might have heard of. He ended up doing some production as well with Gregory Isaac and people like that, and Sanchez. So we had, so as youths, we had Falcon Sound, who used to tour all over the country, High Wycombe, Rugby, Derby, coach trips. Them times you're buying your suit, you know, your cut trousers. You remember the cut trousers?
Yeah, guilty as charged, man. Guilty as charged. So let me ask another question. So, okay, it's because I have to ask it from a geographical point of view, because born in Clapton, raised in Tottenham, right? And the artists of the day that we basically grew up with, local artists. I mean, you had your Janet Kays, Louisa Marks, 15, 16, 17, and those artists of that ilk, of that like, who basically came up with Lovers Rock music and made that popular within the genre of reggae music. Now, I know this might sound like a stupid question, but you living where you was living those times, did you have those same artists that was basically touring around that area, or did you have your own local artists?
No, we had our own local artists, and then also mostly we were listening to what we called Lovers Rock at the time, was people like Dennis Brown, Gregory Isaacs, and I know you used to have a few artists that used to live in London from Jamaica. Dennis Brown was resident here for a while, so we'd hear a lot of their music. I mean, the Lovers Rock, Janet Kay and that came in a bit later in the 80s. you know, Janet Kay and Carol Thompson, that kind of music you'd hear in house party,
Right.
more in house blues rather than in a dance with a song. You'd hear that in house.
Right, but the question I'm asking is, did you have any local artists that was based that had their profile raised in terms of UK music, in terms of lovers rock music?
No, the only artist we had that come out of Luton at that era was Crucial Robbie as a DJ, and that was in the 80s as well, mid 80s.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. So Robbie Lyle, bless up,
Big up Crucial Robbie.
Yeah.
You know,
Don't like
Arsenal team.
Don't like the fact you support Arsenal, though.
Man.
You know, there's
that.
there's certain things we let slide, but you being a gooner is not one of them, my friend.
I'm going to tell him you used to work for BBC and won't lose it. No, I'm only joking.
We're only kidding, man. We got just nothing but love here, man.
Robbie, yeah, man.
Yeah, man. So listen, we are going to end this episode, and we're going to continue from your adolescence, from your school days, and the sound system into the 80s, where you more or less went into sound systems, following sound systems, and being around sound systems, and being in sound systems full time.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
We'll be
Soon
back.
forward.
We're soon forward.